Man, I love this question because as an entrepreneur, the highs are the easy part, right? But it's when
Hmm.
we're walking through those valleys that we really got to keep our head on straight and not get too emotional, like allow our emotions kind of like take over, because that's when the enemy likes to whisper, right? There's
Yeah.
two times where the enemy likes to whisper into your mind to heavily influence you, like in the way you shouldn't be going, right? It's when you have
Hmm.
nothing and when you have everything, right?
Yeah, it's good. That's
So
good.
when you're on that path, I like to think of the story in the Bible where the disciples were in the boat, right?
Hmm.
And Jesus was asleep at the bow of the boat, and water started like raging around the boat. It was just crazy, almost like hurricane type weather, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then they're like, teacher, teacher, don't you care about us? We're all gonna die, right? And then Jesus wakes up and he's like, peace be still, right? And then all of a sudden
Yes.
everything calms, and the disciples are like, holy moly, this is crazy. Like, how did he just do
Hmm.
that, right? So
Hmm.
I think about that a lot. And when we're on that path and we're facing the unknown, and the unknown is not knowing what's going to happen next, right? Not seeing the light beam in the tunnel from the actions, the activities we're putting in. I think about the disciples like in that moment and how I can
Hmm.
be more like having 2020, like looking back on that and being like, okay, they got really emotional, they started freaking out, right? But at the end of the day, they
Yeah.
were they were fine because God was with them, right? So
Right.
that's something I really lean into when I'm on this journey where sometimes things seem a bit uncertain,
Hmm.
unknown, and I really don't know what's going to happen next. Another great story in the Bible that I really reflect back on too is Peter when Jesus asked him to come out onto the water. Right? He didn't start to sink until he took his eyes off Jesus, and then once he took
Yes.
his eyes off Jesus, he started to sink. Right?
Right.
But once
Yes.
he fixed his eyes back on him, he was lifted back up and placed
Yes.
back on the water in safety. So I feel like
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur, being a Christian entrepreneur and fully understanding and having that foundation that everything's going to be okay. The question we can ask ourselves is how would we act every single day if we knew without a shadow of a doubt that everything was going to be okay all the time?
Right. Yeah.